My name is Rich Kimball. I want to thank Will Rogers, Guy Witten, and the folks from the M Club for inviting me back for a second year to be the Master of Ceremonies for this event. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Maine, class of '89, a mere 9 years after I should have. Earned my master's degree here in 1997. I did not play any sports at Maine unless pickup basketball in the pit and running away from Murph the cop counts. If that is, then I probably earned a letter as well. I've had the good fortune, though, of covering University of Maine sports, hard to believe with my youthful appearance, since the days when Jack Cosgrove was a scrambling quarterback for the University of Maine, and I was but a wee child myself. We have a wonderful night planned for you here. Athletes from 7 different teams will be honored tonight. A coach will be honored. For the first time in history, an entire team will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And we even induct a broadcaster tonight, and I'm pretty excited about that. So thank you all for coming tonight. Let's begin the festivities by recognizing some very special people. They are our future Hall of Fame alumni, the current captains of our athletic teams, and the members of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. If they would please stand up so we can recognize you. Current captains, SAAC members. I would say the future looks pretty bright for Black Bear Athletics. Well, let's meet the first of our Hall of Famers tonight. Our first inductee came to Orono out of Nauset Regional High School on Cape Cod. He claims that Coach Jack Cosgrove and assistant coach Jeff Cole only came to see him on a side trip because Cos wanted to show Coach Cole the ocean. When he got to Maine, Mike Devito distinguished himself through his dedication and his remarkable work ethic. He was named the team's outstanding defensive lineman in his second season, was a second-team all-conference selection in his junior year, and as a senior was the A-10 first-team nose tackle. As the longtime voice of Maine football, I have a couple special memories of Mike, and they both come from the year the Black Bears played the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Bob Lucy, my color analyst, and I were standing on the sidelines as the team prepared for the walkthrough, and Mike came out, and nobody worked harder in the weight room than Mike Devito. He came out, walked by us, and walked onto the field, and a very large Nebraska state trooper turned to us and said, "Damn, that is one big boy." We then went to look at Nebraska's weight room, which is incredible, one of the best in college athletics. Only Bob Lucy would have known this because of his impeccable research, but he looked around in that room and said, "DeVito's got better numbers than Nebraska's Iron Man." And it was absolutely the truth. Well, that paid off for Mike. A long shot as an undrafted free agent in the NFL, but his work ethic earned him a spot on the New York Jets roster. He spent 6 years with them before moving to the Kansas City Chiefs for 3 more years, completing one of the longest and most successful NFL careers of any former Maine Black Bear. He retired after the 2015 season and is part of the TV crew for Black Bear football, is working on his master's degree, and best of all, stays in pretty good shape by spending lots of time along with Jesse, chasing around his boys, Rocco and Sal, from the class of '07. Please welcome to the Hall of Fame, Michael Devito.
Well, this is really an incredible honor. I want to thank Rich. I've been around a lot of the voices of, right? The voices of the Jets with Bob Rashusin and the voices of the Chiefs with Mitch Holtis. And I'll tell you what, Rich is top notch. I mean, we've got the gold standard up here, and I'm always appreciative when we have guys who have a higher talent, you know, higher ability, but stay in this area to take care of this area that they love. And so I'm grateful for Rich. When I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today, and I'll keep it short, but it's hard to keep short because when you think about this honor, you think about everybody that went into getting you here. Obviously, getting here and getting to this point is never about you or what you did. It's everybody else that held you up. the Bible tells us in the presence of a multitude of counselors, there's victory. And so when I think back of everybody that played a major role in me getting to this point, I would have to be up here for hours to recognize everybody. But I'll be quick and recognize the people that are closest to me. First off, I got to thank Coach Cosgrove. Coach Cos, again, came down to Nauset High School to see the beach, and he saw a kid that might have a chance and gave me an opportunity to come up here. And I'll tell you as we move on, all the things that did and the way that changed my life to have an opportunity when nobody else was willing to give me one, to come up here and play Division I football. And so I could never repay Coach Cos. And I don't know how much I'm going to have to repay him for paying off the Hall of Fame committee for getting me into this thing. I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for recognizing me. And then I thought back of the timeline of all the people in my life that got me here. And first I'll start with my mom. When I was coming out of high school, I was getting recruited by really two schools, Maine and West Point Military Academy. And I went on a recruiting trip to West Point, and we're sitting down in the admissions office with this guy who had to be a general. I mean, he had a star, he had the big, all the, the medals, and this was really a legit guy. And we're sitting there, and he's looking at my transcripts from high school, and he looks at us and he says, "Listen, you can't get in here. Like, you don't have the grades to get in here." And he's like, I'm sorry, but there's just no way. And my mom, the ultimate encourager and the person who always had my back, she was right in his face saying, "My son is smart, and he plays football, and he can get in here." And I'm like, "Mom, let's not fight the general, okay? Like, this isn't helping me right now." But my mom has had my back from the beginning, and obviously I would never be here without her. Then there's my dad. Okay, my dad's name's Vinny. He's from Brooklyn, and he owns a construction company. That's every stereotype you can think of in one man. And my dad, the opposite side, he held the high standard in the house. And so coming out again, West Point in Maine, and I'm watching these guys, 16, 17 years old, at West Point, getting ready to serve our country, and getting up at 5 in the morning and run until they puke and run around with guns. And I'm like, I can't. I just want to go hang out, play football. And so I told my dad, look, I'm going to go to Maine. I'm going to go to the scholarship to Maine. And my dad was, again, the standard's high. And he was disappointed. And he said, listen to me. If you go to Maine, if you don't join the military and you go to Maine, you better make it to the NFL. And I'm thinking, okay, I bought me 5 years. But little did I know I was coming to a program that was going to be able to build me up and get me to that place and help me achieve that goal. On my recruiting trip to Maine, I met my wife, Jessie. So I was a senior in high school. She was a freshman in college. And she was friends with the wife of my host, who was hosting me for the weekend. And my host told Jessie, he said, look, you need to hit on him so he'll come up here. And so I was only, again, Coach Kaz had offered me a partial scholarship, and so on the way up, my dad was saying, look, don't commit to anything. Let's see if we can get more money out of him. Don't commit to anything. We'll wait till Sunday. We'll play it close to the vest, and maybe they'll give you a higher scholarship. I got there on Friday. I met my wife, Jessie. Saturday morning, I was in Cosgrove's office. I was like, sign it now. Wherever this woman is, this is where I want to be. And so in one shot, I met my best friend, my wife, and then really my hero. My wife is just amazing. And if you, she ran home today because she was here and then left because my youngest son is in that stage where he can't be away from mom. He's 10 months old and he starts freaking out. And so she knows that and she's gone. And she cares so much about her kids, and she's an absolute warrior. And I wouldn't have want anybody else by my side to do this with. And so I'm so grateful for her. And if anybody's seen this face and seen my wife, you know that I outkicked my coverage there, if anybody knows. So I come to the University of Maine, and a few years later, I'm sitting on the sidelines, and I see this guy across the field in flannel, and he has a black hat on. And I'm looking over there, I'm like, I mean, this is the biggest guy I've ever seen. And I'm thinking, who is that guy? I'm like, they're like, oh, we're recruiting him to come here. I'm like, recruiting him to do what? Is he a hitman? Like, that guy's tremendous. Like, no, we're recruiting him to come play football. And so a couple of weeks later, I'm in the weight room, and I meet Matt Mulligan. And it's funny because you would never think Matt and I would meet in the weight room. You know, just not a place that the two of us spend much time. But I met Matt, and just the way that God worked in that friendship, God kept us together. We became best friends right away. Spent 3 years at the University of Maine, and then God said, you know what, you two are too dumb to do it on your own, so I'm going to put you together in the NFL. And so Matt and I spent 3 years together at the New York Jets. And Matt lived with me until I married my wife, and then he stayed there a couple months more, and then finally she kicked him out. But I couldn't have gotten through life without Matt. And living 45 minutes north of me, my best friend. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says, a man has many companions, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And it's so true. And to think about everything I've gone through, he's been right there with me going through the same things. And the Bible also says, as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. And so I couldn't have done this without Matt. And not only that, Matt introduced me to Jesus Christ. And I'm not going to be up here and preach, but that was a total different trajectory in my entire life. My entire life changed there. And it was funny how Matt did it. If everybody knows Matt, he's not very subtle. He doesn't pull any punches. And so we're sitting down in our apartment, and we're sitting there, and Matt goes, hey, you know what, you should come to church with me. And I said, well, I'm good. I mean, when I die, I'll go to heaven. It's fine. He's like, you will definitely not go to heaven when you die. And most people would get upset, but I'm sitting there thinking, all right, I'll go to church. You're probably right. And then lastly, I want to thank my Nana, who's here today, and who was able to share her husband, my grandfather, with me, who was a football coach, Ralph Sardi Consiglio, good Italian name, football coach at Suffern High School for 30 years. And he's the entire reason I played football. And between him and my dad, trying to impress them was the most important thing. So my dad was a bodybuilder. My grandfather was a football coach, and I had the best of both worlds. And I wouldn't have gotten here or been able to do any of this without him. And so I really dedicate this to my grandfather, Ralph Consiglio. This is my last thing, and I'll get down. But when I was with the Chiefs, we had a sign that we took everywhere to the football games we played. It was on the locker room, and it was up at training camp, and it says, "We come in as teammates, but we leave as family." And I thought about that, and I thought about that's this group here. I came in here as a young kid, going to be a player on a team, and I met my wife, I met my best friend, I met Jesus Christ, and my entire life changed. And I left here with family members. All of you guys, this entire group, this group of people that we have here, this Black Bear community that we have here, is just so close. And I'm really grateful to be a part of it. So thank you guys so much. Thanks.
Our next inductee tonight came out of the coal country of Pennsylvania and made his way to the University of Maine with a little help from a visit from his dad, who talked to then swim coach Alan Switzer and convinced him that this is a guy he needed to have on his team. Well, it turned out to be a great pairing, to say the least. He was not only an outstanding swimmer, but a terrific student, civil engineering student who worked as hard in the classroom as he did in the pool. Chuck Martin put up some incredible numbers in his time. 35 years later, his time of 4:36:10 in the 500-meter freestyle remains the Black Bear School record. He set long-standing records in the 200 and the 1650 freestyles and made crucial contributions to record-setting 400 and 800 freestyle relay teams. Said he went on to be a great student. He sure did. After graduating from Maine, a master's degree from the University of Maryland, and since then has traveled the world for the Chicago Bridge and Iron Company on major construction projects. Please welcome, from the class of 1982 and the swim team, Charles Martin.
Two hats up here because I wanted to wear both of them, but there's the Maine swimming and the Maine engineering. Both are icons in my life. They mean a lot to me. They created a lot of opportunities for me. So we flew up here to Portland Thursday. Oh, can you hear me now? All right. Usually have a louder voice, but we came into Portland the other day and instantly got off the plane. All that DC traffic stress went away. Back here in Maine, the air's fresher, the sky is clear. I told my wife, I said, call my therapist. I'm not going to any more sessions. I'm going to stay right here. I feel great. But thank you so much for the kind words. I think of today, and like Mr. Devito just said, it's not really about individual recognition. It's the opportunities, the gifts we've been given. I look back and think of everything I've been given, gifts of opportunities. Celebrating my accomplishments is nothing. It's those people who sacrificed so much to give me the chance to do something. That's who I want to dedicate today to. These are the ones I want to recognize. And I have to start with my parents. You heard the story. They were two kids that got married and had 3 children before they were 21 years old. Dad worked the third shift in the steel mills from 11 to 7. He was at every practice in the evening. Mom took us to morning practices every day, rise and shine, be at school 6 a.m. for swim practice. They gave up so much. They gave up their own opportunities to change their lives so that me and my sisters could change the stars in our life. And I dedicate today to them. Dad passed away, unfortunately, at 55, but he lived 20 years here in Maine. He moved to Rogue Bluffs outside of Machias. Maine lobsterman, clam digger, scallop dragger, property developer. The last 20 years of his life were here in this wonderful state. And that's why he wanted to see his son become a black bear. Dad, I know you're up there. You're pulling traps. You're getting 3 pounds of trap, 3 times more than you ever got. I'm going to be there with you someday, and I don't want to be the apprentice baiter anymore. I want to be guiding the ship. But, Mom, today is your day. You did so much for us. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the gifts of opportunities you gave all of us to change our life. And you're still here in Rogue Bluffs. She found an amazing guy, Maine's own Pierre Dumont, owner of Paper Talks magazine over there. You can put your hand up. And the nephew of Chad, who was a football player for Coach Cosgrove and went on to the NFL. So it's wonderful to be, no one wants to lose a dad, but I couldn't ask for a better stepfather than you, and I'm so happy you're in my life. Thank you so much. I love both of you. My wife, Rita, stand up. This is one incredible woman. Smart, beautiful, and giving. It's a gift to be around her. What was the term you used about, you look at my face and you look at hers? Whew, I'm a really lucky guy. But Rita did more than that. She's been my partner here for a long time. Her mother was Sumie Sato. Grew up as a young girl in Japan during World War II. Watched her home get bombed and destroyed. Lived on very little. Went to school with an empty lunchbox because she was too ashamed to let the kids know that her family couldn't afford food. I think of people like that never had a gift or an opportunity like I have. But that incredible gift of never giving up. I think the little proverb that Sumie taught Rita, and if I remember my Japanese correctly, Nama karobi yaoki, means in a successful life, we fall 7 times, but we get up 8. That's what the University of Maine taught me, coach. The coach is here, that you never give up. You keep trying. You don't ever fail if you don't give up. And Rita, 12 years ago, I fell for the 107th time in my life, and it was a bad one. I lost everything that I thought I worked for in my life. And this angel reached out and picked me up, got me back on my feet. We've been walking together side by side for the last 10 years. I've never fallen since. I've tripped a bunch of times, but she catches me. So today, I honor you, Rita. I love you. Thank you so very much. My sisters, who I grew up with in swimming. My older sister, Tora, was an inspiration. She's sitting here, and she is no shabby swimmer herself. Ohio State Master Swimmer of the Year, Hall of Famer outside of Canton, Ohio. She inspired me, and we swam since we were 7 years old in that lane 1 distance lane, mile after mile after mile, and every time I wanted to quit, my sister said, you don't quit, you never quit, you keep going. Stay on my feet, that's what we do in swimming, we drag, and she kept me going. So I'll never forget Tora. We were in high school, 1977 and 1978. We both were Western Pennsylvania champions in the 200, 500 free back-to-back. I don't think any brother and sister team's ever done that. I live with that, Tora. You've helped me in swimming. You helped me in life. Thank you. I love you. And I'm probably way over my 5 minutes, but there's so many other people I need to thank for the gifts they've given me. Sherry Quince Bissell, my niece, she's like a daughter to me, no stranger to Maine. She lived in Slummers up in Rogue Bluffs, helping in the lobster business. She's a mother now, and she's a wonderful, wonderful niece. P.J. Dumont, my stepfather, chemical engineering graduate at the University of Maine, #1 in his class, an amazingly smart guy. The whole Dumont family, I'm blessed to have them in my life. My children, Caitlin, Sharon, and Charles Thomas. Thomas is with me here today. Stand up. Nothing. Nothing means as much to me as what I've accomplished with being your dad. Nothing, Tom. I trust me. Don't ever compare your accomplishments to anyone else. No one can be a better you than you. Be the best you can be every day. I will be proud, because that's a world record no one can beat, because no one can be as good as you. Swim coaches and mentors, Jeff Wren, Alan Switzer. Al is an amazing guy, so is Jeff. These are 2 guys that have committed their lives to mentoring student athletes. Well over 100 years of experience in helping thousands of us that wanted to change our lives. And they've sacrificed so much to do that. So you've given a lot of gifts to a lot of people. And I can't say enough, Al. You're an amazing storyteller too. Go off the track a little bit. We were at a away swim meet. When you swim at Maine or you're a compete in Maine, everywhere you go to compete, it's a long ways to go. We were coming back, so it's 6 hours of telling stories. And the guys are telling stories, and Coach Switzer starts talking about his summer, what he did. And he starts saying, well, I coached Jane Fonda. Young Jane Fonda in her bikini every day working with Coach. And we said, Coach lost it. He's making up stories. Sure enough, on Golden Pond, taught Jane Fonda how to do that backflip. Amazing accomplishment. All my teammates, classmates, amazing. So many gifts, so many great professors. Dr. Richard Nightingale, my structural engineering. And there was one class I had that wasn't an engineering class. It was in business law in 1981. And it was the most amazing business law professor I ever had. Professor Gary Thorne, thank you very much. He's a great guy. And now we're neighbors, because I work for a company that built Oriole Park at Camden Yard, where he's at all the time. And I just leased some office space down next to him on a major project we're going to be doing for CSX. So when I interrupt traffic, Gary's going to get me out of trouble and get me out of jail free. Thank you all so very much. I got to end here, but what I want to end with is recognizing the University of Maine, the M Club, and what wonderful gifts you've given so many of us. And I would like to end with challenging everyone here. Anyone who's received a gift from this university, whether it be the University of Maine, engineering department, the M Club, remember, to whom much is given, much is expected. Give back. Make sure that the next generations and the current generations, that Maine Christmas tree is loaded with gifts to give to them. Give back what you can every year. As if you've received a lot, let's make sure that these next generation of student athletes, they get the same gifts we had. And that's what it's all about, making sure that Christmas tree is full of gifts forever. Thank you all so very much. God bless America. God bless our troops. God bless the University of Maine. Go Black Bears. Oh, that's a handsome guy. Can I take that one?
Our next inductee arrived in Orono from New Jersey in 1954, where he had been a state champion in track and field and went on to have a remarkable career at the University of Maine. Some of these numbers are incredible. He ran the fastest mile in University of Maine history 59 years ago. He was a member of the New England Cross Country Championship team not once, but 3 straight autumns. He was the captain his last 2 years, a first-place finisher in the New England meet his senior year, and won the mile of both the Yankee Conference and the Old State Series meets in each of his final 2 spring seasons. And that just adds to the remarkable record of accomplishment for Dan Rearick. Any athlete likes to save their best for last, and Dan certainly did that in 1958 in his final meet, a 4:13.9 mile in his very last race. Dan was also an outstanding student. In addition to civil and mechanical engineering degrees from the University of Maine, he earned a master's in physiology of exercise from Springfield College in 1973. And then his family moved to Canada, where he was in charge of promoting fitness and healthy living for the province of New Brunswick for many years. From the class of 1958, Dan Rearick, and please welcome his wife, Nancy, to accept the award tonight. I can hold that if you'd like. Sure. Absolutely, I will do that.
Wow. This is something I can't believe Danny cannot come, but I thought maybe his sweater can go. So this is Danny's Club sweater, and he's had this a lot longer than he's had me. But I just thought, he cannot be here, he's not well. But I thought he can be here, because to keep things just, the other thing I have, which is long before university, I have his roller skate key. And so and he knows what I'm up to. This is, it's bittersweet for us because we're thrilled about his being honored into the Sports Hall of Fame. At the same time, it's sad that he's unable to be here. However, he knows what's going on. When we were leaving today, he has somebody staying with him. Our son Peter is going to drive home after our festivities here. And so I said, Danny, would you like Peter to bring him the plaque when he comes home this evening? And he said, yes. And I just can't thank you, everyone, and many of you are here, who kept in touch with us this winter after we knew that Danny was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It made a long winter go faster. The calls, the cards, just, it's been very, very beautiful and very special for him. He said for a few years now he's in the bell lap of life, and indeed he is. He's not well, he's bedridden, the man who did all that wonderful, wonderful running, but because of people who support him, because of the wonderful care he has, he is not suffering. He is not suffering, and it's very, very beautiful. And I think part of it goes back to his running, where he would set a goal, and he would endure, and truly an endurance athlete. Just very, very special. And we thank all our friends, the folks here at the university, for supporting him in this rough patch. And as I close, just want to say, and it's not me saying, it's Danny and Nancy saying, thank you, thank you, thank you for all the wonderful things that have happened at the University of Maine. I especially want to single out the M Club. We have a place in Maine, we live in Canada, and we keep a camp log. It's called Champion Camp, and the Champion Camp log, October 19, 2013, 4:50 a.m. on our way to Orono, homecoming. Dear Will Spencer met us in Orono for the M Club breakfast. He had talked his wonderful way into a best parking spot for us. Just a wonderful reception for Danny as he ate breakfast. We are so blessed. And we are. Thank you to the M Club. Thank you to everyone. We're having a wonderful, wonderful time. And I will take back all the people who wish to be remembered, Danny, and he'll know who you are. Thank you very much.
To some people, the word coach is more than just a job description, more than just a title. It's a way of life. You can certainly say that for our next inductee. He came to Maine after an already successful career as a native of Winnipeg, a forward at the University of Minnesota Duluth, co-captain as a senior, 1960-61, a high school coach in Minnesota, joined the Dartmouth staff in 1966, became head coach in 1970. Joined the 1976 U.S. Olympic staff of the legendary coach Bob Johnson. After the Olympics, joined the staff at the University of Wisconsin, and in 12 seasons with him there, the Badgers won 3 NCAA titles. At the University of Maine, he became not only the Black Bears' primary recruiter, but also worked with the goalies. And to show what kind of a coach Grant Standbrook was, he not only worked with the Maine goaltenders, he worked with soccer goalkeepers, and one memorable night even tried to teach me his workout routine that he did using a bath towel in hotel rooms on the road to stay in shape, but he's still in better shape than me after all these years. In 2005, The American Hockey Coaches Association gave him the Terry Flanagan Award, which honors an assistant coach's career body of work. As a coach, his teams won 5 national championships, including 2 right here at the University of Maine. He coached 4 goalies who made it to the National Hockey League, and his coaching tree is one of the best you'll find in the game. We're pleased to welcome to the Maine Sports Hall of Fame, Grant Standbrook.
More stability on one skate than I have at the moment. I thought I had picked the best gene pool in the world when I selected my parents. I'd gotten through just a couple of days from being 80 and had never been near a hospital, with a few exceptions, like broken noses and teeth and all those other things, but not anything serious. And for the last 6 months, I've been involved with a disease called cancer. I'm sure all of you people have had somebody in your family who's been affected. I was the last in my family. I thought I was going to avoid it, but it's been my focus for the last 6 months. And I thought you had to be tough playing contact sports. I'm finding you have to be a lot tougher handling a disease like this and being older. And I think in the last 6 months, that last word has been emphasized quite a bit, because it takes a lot out of you. About 6 weeks ago, I was probably 118 pounds. Now I'm up to 138, so I'm coming along. Progress. I was on my skates coaching until last September, and all of a sudden this hit. And you know, I had been coaching with Jim Montgomery after he finished his pro career. I'd go in and help him in Dubuque when he was coaching junior before he went to Denver. And I quit one day. You know what? The next pair of skates I get made for myself, I'm going to get Velcro instead of laces on them. Well, for the last 6 months, the only shoes I could wear were shoes that had Velcro on them. And if you had seen me about an hour ago trying to get my shoes on, it would have been worth the price of admission, because I'm lying on my back on the bed, I got my foot up in the air, I'm trying to get my shoe on, and it literally took me 15 minutes to get one shoe on. And the other day, my wife informed me in the evening that, Grant, your V-neck sweater has been on backwards all day. So I believe I'm getting to that age. Unfortunately, maybe that's the only thing I'll remember about it if I am. You know, I would not be up here without this lady with the white shawl over her shoulders here. We've been married just a few days shy of 60 years. And you know, she sacrificed so much for me. She was an outstanding student. She was president of our high school. She was queen of our high school. So the best recruit I ever had is that lady over there. And you know, I'm getting all these accolades in recent years, being in this Hall of Fame and that for lacrosse and hockey and soccer and all that, and in Manitoba, and she can't understand it. And you know, I'm getting so much attention, and really, she deserves the credit, because being a coach's wife, you have to be a very special person. It's just not everybody that can be a coach's wife. And a lot of coaches are on their second and third marriages. And I know when they, at the coaches convention, I would stand up a few times and say, listen, you guys, what are you doing? You're in the hands of these entrepreneurs. They're making money off you because you're willing to go to this clinic and that clinic and the other clinic all summer long and observe these kids. They're telling you that they're bringing in the best kids from a region, and you're paranoid. You have to be there. Your families are left behind. I was fortunate that I had the opportunity to take my family with me to summer clinics and develop as a coach, because one minute you're coaching 6 and 7-year-olds, the next minute you're coaching 16 and 17-year-olds. So you have to change your face, and you have to change what you're doing, and you have to find out what works and what doesn't work, and what word pictures work and what word pictures don't work. And I had the opportunity with my sons and daughter. Two of them are over here right now. Our daughter Jill, our son John. My brother Wayne has come all the way from North Battleford, Saskatchewan, 4 hours from Edmonton. And I had the opportunity to take them to clinics in not only in Madison, but in Aspen and Vail and Sun Valley and all over the place, and be on the ice with them. One week they'd be a goalie, the next week they'd be a defenseman, the next week they'd be a forward. And Jill would be doing her thing and being the patient sister while these boys went through these hockey clinics, and I worked with them. But I had an opportunity to be with my family, and I had an opportunity to develop as a coach, to learn teaching progressions that these guys nowadays just do not have the opportunity to do. And so they don't develop as coaches. And they get out of the business because their wives are saying, where have you been? You're away all summer, you're going to a clinic again, you're going to another, you're going here, you're going there. And finally it ends in divorce or whatever, and they get out of the business, and they have the potential to be great coaches, but they never realize it. And the reason is they have to go into another profession, one that makes sense. Okay? When I got into this profession, I had no idea what I was getting into, other than the fact that I loved hockey, and I had grown up with hockey, and I'd grown up with different contact sports when we were kids. I lived a shorter distance than from here to the end of the room from the rink. In the morning, we'd take our lacrosse sticks and our soccer ball and our baseball glove and our football, and we'd play all day. There might be 5 fights in the course of the day, but you work it out. You don't have coaches. My coach was a building in the back of our house, and our house had a machine, or it had an engine repair place. At about 5 o'clock every day they left, and I had a brick-faced wall. I threw lacrosse balls, soccer balls, pucks at that thing, and so did Wayne, my brother. We were involved in judo together. We never fought after we started doing judo because of mutual respect. But I learned a lot from these other sports, and I'm very fortunate to have had the eclectic background, and I never thought that it would just be about hockey eventually. I moved from teaching at Churchill High School in Winnipeg, where I taught and coached just about everything. And you'd never know that I learned more from track and field athletics, and I learned more from judo, and I learned more from aikido, and I learned more from coaching different sports than I ever could have by just being a hockey coach. And suddenly the realization struck me that there's only so many ways a body can move. And there were a lot of guys who influenced me. I had a lot of different coaches in a lot of different sports. And some of them were yellers and screamers, and some of them would hit you with clipboards. But they were trying to get you to do what they wanted you to do any way they could do it. They exhorted you any way they could. And, you know, there's a sign in the bookstore there. I was over there this afternoon. And I think it was Oscar Wilde, and he said, "Be yourself because everyone else is taken." So I had a judo instructor, and he never said much. His name was Mr. Matani. And after the Second World War, a lot of the Japanese people were put in intern camps, and then they were distributed across Canada. Some of my best friends were Japanese in judo and German people. And my dad, who had gone through 2 world wars, couldn't handle that very well. And so I had a tough time bringing them to my birthday party and that sort of thing when you're a little kid. And that was tough, but they were my best friends. And one of my best friends, Memorial Oi, is now a 2nd-degree black belt, and that's he's one of the few in the world who's a 9th-degree black belt. And he's committed his life to it. And so we're in contact all the time, but he's the guy that really got me into the sport. And I found that in hockey, if you want to be successful checking, and you're a little guy like I am, you aren't going to be successful. You just are not going to be successful. And the coaches say, get in there and hit that big defenseman. It's not going to happen. It'll happen, but it's not going to happen with good results. So you have to know where to put your stick, how to do it, how to use leverage, how to be successful. So you just can't arrive there going full speed and angry, because you're going to take a lot of penalties, a lot of stupid penalties, a lot of penalties that are actually because you want to do the job the coach says, but you don't arrive doing it the right way. You don't arrive in the right position. Your angle of pursuit is wrong, etc. So to win, you can't beat yourself. And a lot of teams over the years that we beat were better than us on paper. But if they want to take penalties, we'll take power plays. Thank you. And I know that at Wisconsin, talking about this one team that we have right here, this is an exceptional team. I know that Alabama was rated ranked number one this season, and in recent years they've been ranked number one 3 other times. They never met that ranking at the end of the season. It's tough to do it all year. This team did. They were number one for the full season, right from day one, right through to the end. And 6 of our players played at Christmas time. They were away for at least 10 days. Matt Martin, the Ferraros, Dunham, Snow, Paul Correa played on the Canadian team. The others were on the American team, and we still won. And it's really a tribute to our team, to the depth, to the not only to the stars, the guys that were advertised like the Paul Correa and the Ferraros and so on. It was a tribute, I think, to our seniors as well. And the most poignant thing I can think about when I think about that team is one of our seniors, Kent Selfie, who may have won the national championship for us. And who had ever heard of Kent Selfie, relative to these guys? And I think how fortunate we were to have him. And I can remember one day that stands out, and I'll just tell you a quick aside to it. I'm at BU's rink watching a practice, and it's after the spring break, and Kent Selfie comes up to me, and Sean Walsh and I had been in his house in Albany, and he decided that he was going to go to Vermont. So we never pursued him after that. We wished him well. And all of a sudden, I look, and he's standing beside me. Oh, hi, Kent. How are you? And, hey, Coach, I've got something to tell you. What's going on? Well, I've decided not to go to Vermont. Now, it's like me being up here with Kent Selfie beside me. Everyone in the rink, and maybe 100 of them hockey coaches, are saying, what is Standbrook doing with Selfie? Because he's going to Vermont. Well, I met with Mr. Selfie across the street from BU's rink, and I said, what is going on? He said, I don't know what it is. He was on a spring trip. He wouldn't talk to anybody. He hasn't talked to me all the way up here. He's been sulking. We can't get him to talk. There's something wrong. So I informed Sean, and we met with him at the Howard Johnson just down the street from the rink at BU. And in no time at all, Kent Selfie was coming to Maine, Vermont was livid. But Kent Selfie won us the championship. And we had a lot of great players. We had a guy like Michel Latendresse. Every time you look at that, one of the two films that were made, you see Michel Latendresse. You say, well, where did he play? Did he play with you guys? What about Patrice Tardif? I mean, these are top kids. And I can remember being in a rink. I took my dog, and I took, I believe, our son John and Joy. We went to watch Patrice play for the last time up in his rink. He was going to a CJEB, which is the only English-speaking one among all the CJEBs up in Quebec. And they had a guy, it was all over him, sewn to him. He didn't do a thing for 2 periods. My wife said, he's not good enough. Let's leave. And well, you know, he's played awfully well. He's played awfully well for me in the past. I got to keep watching him. So I left my son and Joy, and I went down. I stood by the plexiglass, and there was a Winnipeg Jet scout there. And we started talking. And in the course of the conversation, I said, he's 187 pounds. No, he's not. He's not 180. Yes, he's 187 pounds. I know he is. So this guy ran down there at the end of the game, got him into the training room, and weighed him. He said, you're right. And he got drafted. So, and then he came to us, and he played so very, very well. And I can remember, you know, one of the other poignant memories I have of his dad passing during the course of that season, and how the team was behind him and supporting him. But Kent Selfie, he said to the Ferreros, we have a kangaroo court once a week, and the most you can get fined is a quarter. But there were some huge fines, believe me, in the minds of the players. And a lot of guys were fined regularly, even the coaches, the trainers, everyone was fined. Didn't matter what you did. But Kent, near the end of the season, says, I'm really losing sleep over you two dudes. He's talking to Peter and Chris Ferraro, particularly Peter, because Peter was on his way to breaking a record for penalty minutes at the University of Maine. He may have already achieved it at that point. And he says, all we do is kill penalties for you, and you're indiscriminate. You don't care when you take them, what the score is, what it means to the team. All you do is take penalties, and we're killing penalties for you to win games. There was absolutely dead silence in the room. I thought there was going to be a fight for sure. The Ferreros' dad owned a sporting goods store, and they were bringing in their own lumber all the time and taping sticks. And they're like, and all of a sudden the taping stopped. And now it's really silent in the room. And the eyes are glaring at one another across the room. And I'm saying, I'm going to have to step in here somewhere, I think. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. At our banquet, after we had won it, my best remembrance of this team is Chris Ferraro getting up there in our rink where we had the banquet and saying, you know, from Pee Wee through junior, we've won the championship, or we've won the scoring championship. My brother or I have either been first or second in the scoring. We've won it at every level. We've won the scoring championship, but it took one of our teammates, Kent Selfie, to teach us how to win a championship. And I never forgot that, and that took a lot of courage. And I'm going to tell you right now, Chris, I'll never forget it as long as I live. It was a great moment. But that's the lesson that was learned by Chris, and I attribute it to what Kent Selfie said. And when I look at these guys, you know, I read the thing there, and they're talking about Final Fours, 15 Final Fours, and 4 different coaches and so on. Well, that doesn't mean much to me. It's meaningful because it keeps your job, because you only have a 1-year contract when you're an assistant coach. So it puts food on the table. But other than that, you know, it's all about the people. It's all about working with people. And they're not hockey players. They're people. You treat them the same. It's just like Whitey, the Zamboni driver. You treat him as the same as you treat anybody on your team. And there's no one you'd say, well, Paul Curry was the star of the team. He might have been. But every single guy on that team, even David Lacouture, who got knocked out late in the game, late stages of the last game, and he's sliding like a curling rock. By the way, I talked to him the other day, and I forgot to tell him we won the game. But he couldn't make it because his son is the captain of LSU. He redshirted last year through an injury, and we tried every conceivable means to get him here and back in time for that game, but we couldn't do it, and he couldn't come. And other than that, we have Tony Fournette, who couldn't make it, he came in at Christmas, and he didn't feel as attached to the team, but Tony, every member, as I said, was important to our team and vital to our winning season. But this was considered the best team in Hockey East in the 25 years of Hockey East. And if you were to say which team was the best in all-time college hockey, they would probably be mentioned 1, 2, or 3. And then it's just a matter of getting on the ice and working it out. You can't do it any other way. You can't do it any other way. And when I think of guys like Cal Ingraham, who had the best hands probably at, have you ever played golf over at Penobscot Country Club, the second hole over there? Okay, this little guy can hit it up over the valley, up onto the top ledge. Okay, he can hit it pro distances, and he's shorter than this stand right here, right? Okay. Seriously. How do you think Korea got 75 assists? Okay, and Paul, the little guy got 48 goals. That may never be broken. You know, he can play any sport. I mean, he's just incredible. I saw him one time, or I phoned him one time up in Montreal. I saw he was playing. I phoned him. He was playing in that world roller hockey. He never played it before, about 3 weeks before, and he was in the leading scorers right away. You know, so we had some incredible athletes. We had 2 NHL goaltenders to begin with. I mean, that's a good starter right off the bat. And then we had a defensive core that was solid, really solid. And there's one guy on that defensive core, Chris Imes. A guy said to me the other day, Chris Imes, you know what? He played at Notre Dame, didn't he? This is a school in Wilcox, Saskatchewan, which is like 35 minutes drive south of Regina. It's Spartan, real Spartan. It's got a grain elevator. It's got a store. It's got a place where they eat when they have food available. I mean, you knew they were getting oatmeal every morning, and then they just groveled for whatever they could gather, and they were living in trailers. This is where you sent your son when he was leading, toward a life of crime or whatever. And you want to straighten him out? Well, one of our guys, Steve Whitmire, was there. Scott Pellerin was there. Okay, they came up pretty darn good. Okay, and they have along their side wall, it go all the way around of guys who played in the NHL, and they all say it's because of their experience there at Notre Dame. But Chris Imes is the only guy in the history of Notre Dame hockey, and I didn't even know this until a few weeks ago, but Chris Imes, this is actually my first year here. I go to watch them play, and they're playing in a tournament. It's a midget tournament. That's like an under-17 tournament. It's up in northern Saskatchewan, I think Prince Albert. And I'm watching the game, and I see this kid, and I really like him. He's not a fast skater or anything, but this guy can play, you know. And I had to leave, and I said to this friend of mine who coached up in British Columbia, and he was scouting for Major A hockey. I said, listen, I kind of like this Chris Imes. Would you tell me how he's playing? I'll give you a call tomorrow. So he said, Chris who? I said, Chris Imes. So he goes to his program, and he says, oh, okay, I'll watch him. So I phone him the next day, and he says, how did I miss him? he really played well. And I said, well, I'm relieved to hear that. So Bruce Crowder decides that he's going to see these guys make it to the national tournament, which is in a small town in Quebec. Bruce Crowder, who was the assistant coach at Maine when I got here, along with Jay Leach. And by the way, those guys did a fabulous job. The foundation was already set when I got here. I didn't have to worry about a thing. I just tried to perpetuate what they had done. And they had some great players like the Capuanos and Weinriches and so on, all the way through. And it was easy. But Bruce and I went up there, and Bruce says, he can't skate. Okay, all right. Now, Sean had given me a list of 40 names when I got there. Joy was still in Wisconsin. And I said, this is November. I said, don't pack your bags yet. I was living in college housing. Everything we had was in boxes excepting my alarm clock. And I wasn't there very often. And I was on the road. I was in Alaska. I was spending all kinds of money traveling from one place to the other. And everyone looked the same. They were all good. They were all real good. They all had good college careers. But I'm looking at the top 10 first. And after looking at the top 10, I said, I don't think I want any of these guys. And so we had a bit of a problem. Because at Wisconsin, I just went out on the road by myself. And Bob Johnson would say, we need 5 guys. And he'd never come out and watch. And so we had that trust. And I didn't quite have that same trust with Jeff Sauer, because Jeff Sauer only wanted Americans, and I didn't realize that. And after 1 year on the road watching guys, I came down to 3 guys, and they were all on the same team in St. Albert, just south of Edmonton. And we took one at Wisconsin. He said, you can have one. I says, well, what about the other 2? And why are you saying I can have one? You haven't seen any of them yet. So he went up there, and he decided that he liked this kid by the name of Shuchuk, who went on to play for LA after Wisconsin. And the other one went to UMD, and he won our national championship, and the other one went to Denver, and he was in the top 5 all-time scoring for Denver. So I think I had 3 pretty damn good players. But it only inspired me because he had a great career. Jeff Sauer, he'd come from CC, but we won the national championship in his first year, and that didn't go too well because he wanted players from basically the United States. I wanted players who could win, and I didn't care where they're from. If they're all from the United States, I could care less. If they're all from Wisconsin, I could care less. I just wanted the best players, and if I'm going to be on the road away from my family, I want the guys that I think are the best players. And so I end up at Maine, and Sean Walsh invites me to come to the national tournament, and we talk, and he decides that he wants me at Maine. And so now after 3 months, he's wondering about me because I don't like any of his players. So now I'm feeling very uncomfortable. I said, Joy, don't come yet. Don't get that plane ticket yet. So Bruce and I go up to watch Chris Imes play. He doesn't like Imes because Imes isn't fast enough. I talked to Dave Peterson. I said, well, I got to improve this guy before he comes because, first of all, one of the coaches doesn't like him. And I want this kid to fit in when he gets here. So I phoned Dave Peterson, and he's the national coach. He was the coach in Calgary for the Olympics, and he lives in Minnesota. I said, Dave, I got this kid from Minnesota. His name's Chris Imes, and I know you're having a tournament with the Russians and the Czechs and so on in Lake Placid. Could I get him in that tournament? No, we've got our team picked. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, Dave. I think he's pretty good. He played at Notre Dame, and I think he's got some talent and a future. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. If we lose anybody, I'll give you a call. So he doesn't call me the last week before the camp. I phone him, and I'm being proactive. He says, well, and very reluctantly, actually, we do have an opening. So Chris gets there on a Sunday, and they have a little bit of a scrimmage and they do some drills and so on. But the real first scrimmage is on a Wednesday. I'm not getting there till Thursday. This guy calls me over. His name is Jack Blatherwick. He's a coach at the University of Minnesota. He does all their off-ice training. He waves me over in the rink in Lake Placid, and he said, "Grant, come here. I owe you an apology." And I said, "What's up, Jack?" And he said, "Well, you know, after the on-ice stuff, we coaches go and have a beer, and we sit down and we rate the players. This kid Imes, you like him, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, he's been rated the lowest of all our players in camp every day. We think you're losing it, you know." So then he said, "Here's where the apology comes in. The first day we scrimmage is on Wednesday." And he said the other guys on the ice might as well have had their own puck, because he had the puck the whole time. And we call him the gamer. So I said, "Well, that's a relief to hear that." So anyway, so I grab him. They pick him to go to Saskatoon to play in a tournament with our guys, our 6 guys. And I grab him and throw him in the dressing room and lock the door. And I can see what he can't do and what he can do. And we're bouncing off the wall in this dressing room, and they're looking all over for IMs because they're having a team meeting and whatnot. We're in there for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And I open the door and they say, "Standbrook, what are you doing in there with him?" I said, "Well, he's coming to Maine, and I know he's going to Colorado Springs first, and then you're taking him to Saskatoon for the World Tournament." And I just had a few things to talk to him about. And so with Chris, we had a system where we called him our hunter, and we, instead of having guys come at him one-on-one with 10 feet and with speed and embarrass him, he was proactive, and he moved in. He came in from the blind side, and he got guys going east and west, and he was fabulous for us. He was absolutely fabulous, as these guys will tell you. And he fit right in, and you'd never know he was just a youngster playing out there. But at Notre Dame, they said he's the only player who ever couldn't make the junior team, went up for a few games, and came out of the midget program, much to the chagrin of the guys that were playing on the junior team who didn't get picked. And I just learned that the other day. But Chris had a great career here, and I know his son Mac is here. I haven't seen Chris or Mac yet, but I know they're around here somewhere. Where are you, Chris? Yeah, there he is, right there. And there's Mac. I'm sure if you're like your dad, you're going to be pretty darn good. Okay? But I'm glad to see these people here. I know that this is one of the best teams ever in college hockey. I was at a tribute to a Wisconsin team that went from being 10th in the WCHA the year we were away with the Olympic team to winning the WCHA. And one of our players got up and said, "You know, I'm going to make a stand for us being the best team in college hockey." And I was there. And I said, "Grant, would you get up and say a few words?" So I said, "I have to stand at the middle of the table for this one, because I'm not going to sit at either end. I can't, this has to be done on the ice. This can't be done speaking about it and declaring the best team ever." But we had, they were a great team, and the one thing about them that separated them from all teams, just as a tribute to them, the fact that the power play was 39%. 39%. If you got a penalty against us, it was an automatic goal. We had a guy by the name of Craig Norwich who was a genius back there with the puck. But if you're anywhere near 30% in any league, you've got a great power play. And if you look at the records of teams in the NCAAs and see what their records are, they're like you, 21%, 22%. This team is 39%. So I'm going to close it off before somebody hooks my crutch on me here. But I just want to say that I learned more from the players that I coached than they learned from me. I can assure you that. But I've had a great time coaching. Never out of hockey my whole life. Never had to work in my entire life. Always in hockey. And here I'm at 80, and I'm still hanging around it, and I love the association with it. And for me, it's about the players. It's about the people. Okay? It's about others. It's not about wins and losses. It's not about national championships, but they happen to come along too. Thank you.
Our next inductee came to Orono out of Belfast, where he was a three-sport star at the old Crosby High School. He was quarterback on the football team, a guard on the basketball team, and a catcher in baseball until he switched to the infield as a senior. He came to a Maine team that had gone just 9-12 the previous season, but that 1964 Maine Black Bear baseball team would go on to make history, and David Zippy Thompson was a key part of that. Maine went to the College World Series that year for the very first time under Coach Jack Butterfield, and a lot of folks believe it was the move of David Thompson to third base that made the difference in that season. In the College World Series that year, he batted .315, hitting safely in all 5 games. This was a Black Bear team that eliminated from the World Series perennial powers like USC and Arizona State, teams that had future major leaguers like Sal Bando, Don Kessinger, and Ray Lamb. That season, he batted .333, tied with Dick DeVarney for the team lead. And now he joins the Hall of Fame with several teammates, including Coach Jack Butterfield, Joe Ferris, and Stump Merrill. Following his time at the University of Maine, David Thompson served in the Marines. At OCS at Quantico, he served as a platoon commander during combat in Vietnam. When he left the Marines, he was a captain once again, as he had been with Maine baseball. Went on to a long career with the ABEX Corporation, which manufactures and markets gear train systems for large industrial machinery. We welcome to the University of Maine Sports Hall of Fame from the class of 1965, David Thompson.
Take you back to the days of yore. You heard him use this nickname I picked up, Zippy. It's amazing about nicknames. You cannot shake them. I'm 76 and I've still got it. And when I was in Vietnam as a platoon commander and a company commander, I'm damn well happy that my troops did not know that was my nickname. Take you back to the early 60s and what NCAA athletics was going on at the University of Maine. In those days, no freshman could play any NCAA athletics. There were no athletic scholarships here at the university, at least that I know of. We had very little recruiting going on in those days also. So all of us who had come here, it was either you were either maybe a legacy type of person or just someone who was interested in living in the state of Maine. We did have a few folks from our team that did come from out of the state, but very little recruiting, so you just came here on your own and went from there. One other thing about playing baseball here in the 60s, and it may not have changed a great deal, but I can remember those early April days, 40 degrees, wind out of the north, and snow showers. And games were called at different times to let the snow stop so we could continue. When I first came to Maine, I thought I was going to play football and baseball. I went out for the Frosh football team, and I was a quarterback in high school, and I informed the coaches of that. But very shortly after I went out for the team, they handed me number 62, a leather helmet, and told me to play guard. I realized that they didn't think I was going to hang around long in football, and they were right. I stuck to baseball. He spoke of my first few years in Maine. We had less than 500 teams. The 64 team was an amazing group of young players. We had just 2 seniors, I think about 3 juniors, and 15 sophomores that had just come in. And the interesting difference between what I had seen before, and I had played 2 years in the Cape Cod League, so I had seen a lot of players. But every one of those sophomore kids that came into Maine could really play baseball. They really could play the game. I had never seen this here at the university. So I knew we really had something pretty special that year. We went out through the season, and our season was strong enough that we qualified for the regional playoffs in Fenway Park. That was quite a treat for all of us. The only difference that you go down there and you play in that ballpark in front of 200 people, it does seem a little strange. We won 2 out of 3 there. They actually won 2 in a row. Joe Ferris, Tom Murphy, who are both sitting out there, won the games and sent us to the College World Series. The first University of Maine team to play in a national championship round in the history of the university. We played teams such as he mentioned earlier, Seton Hall, Southern Cal, Arizona State, Minnesota, Missouri, teams such as that. And during that time there, we won 3 games, and having beaten those 2 big teams, the perennial championships, we moved on to a kind of a play-in game. I think they got real fancy about it. I think they flipped a coin. There were 3 teams with 1 loss, Minnesota, Missouri, and Maine. And we always told our coach, Jack Butterfield, that one mistake he made all year was he blew that, so we had to play a play-in game, and we lost it 2-1 to Missouri. So that ended a magical season for us. One thing that came out of it was Joe Ferris won 2 games, saved a 3rd, and was voted the MVP of the series. And I played well enough to join him on the All-Star team. Later that year, Jack Butterfield, our great coach, was named NCAA Division I Baseball Coach of the Year, which was one tremendous tribute to him and to the university for that matter. 2 things I'd like to talk about that give me great pride in my time at Maine and ending with that 64 season. The main thing was that after our exposure that year, we brought a lot of alumni who had not been involved came out. A lot of Friends of Maine baseball came out with funding that helped the program greatly going forward, and went on for years, really. And that was a tremendous thing from what our team had done, and brought that tremendous national exposure, and allowed the succeeding teams to travel further, to go to California, to go to Hawaii, to go to tournaments all over the country, that heretofore we hadn't been able to do it without the funding. But that team in '64 brought those people out. One last thing that I think anyone who's played athletics, and particularly collegiate sports, and here at Maine also, one thing that comes out of that, we played over 50 years ago. And I am still close friends with many of the young men sitting out there right now that we played with during those days. It's a tribute to the school, to the coaches, and to the people that we had here at the university that pushed that sort of thing. And we've all been friends all these years. We get together often it's something that really came out of our time that year that held us together. So in ending, I'd just like to say I want to thank the committee for this great honor to be concluded with 3 of my other former teammates here at the Hall of Fame. And I want to thank you very much. Thanks.
Our next inductee took a somewhat unconventional route to his chosen profession. Came out of Old Town High School, worked as a part-time radio announcer for WABI while still in high school, covering a number of events, working as a disc jockey. Went on to go to law school, where he became not only a lawyer, but an assistant district attorney, as you heard earlier, a professor of business law here at the University of Maine, but always had a love of broadcasting with him. He became the first broadcaster for University of Maine hockey in the team's second season, 1978-1979. And then in the mid-'80s, after doing Maine Guides games, took the leap to become the broadcaster for the New York Mets. And that was the start of one of the most celebrated careers in the history of my profession as well. He has one of the most recognizable voices in all of broadcasting. His work for ESPN, now is the voice of the Baltimore Orioles, many years of doing several broadcasts, the voice of video games, now working with not only Jim Palmer, the Hall of Famer, but former Black Bear Mike Bordick, covering those Baltimore Orioles games. Despite the success that Gary Thorne from the class of 1970 has had, having known him for a long time, what I'm most impressed with is that Gary has never forgotten his roots. He's still the guy who left a young broadcaster stranded on the Augusta Civic Center floor trying to get upstairs during a commercial break so he could get to a Maine hockey game, and said, "Don't worry, Rich, you'll be fine." Please welcome to the Hall of Fame, class of '70, Gary Thorne.
I didn't pay it. The story's true, by the way. I did leave him down there and took off how to do a hockey game. To the Hall of Fame, thank you very much for the recognition. It's a great honor. Having grown up in Old Town, spent my whole life and university life here, and then at Maine Law School, and still have a home here in Maine and Bath. This is always home, so coming back is always really great. So it's just a great honor, and congratulations to the other inductees. I'm honored to be in a class that has such tremendous people who have such tremendous stories to tell, not only about their time at Maine, but what they've done with their lives. Thanking people is very hard. I am very emotional, and so it's difficult for me. My mom and dad wondered what the hell I was doing when I took a job junior in high school in radio. My dad was a plumber. My mom was a housewife. There was nobody who had ever done anything in the media other than turn on the radio. And all of a sudden, I'm taking off for Bangor down to ABI to do broadcasting. I had a hitchhike the first time. My father said, if you're going to be doing this, then you got to find a way to do it. So I hitchhiked on 95 Sunday morning, 5:30 to get to work. My father decided I really was going to do this, so the next week he gave me the family car and went out and bought another one and never said a word. Never, till the day he died, said a word about why he did that. And my mother never missed a broadcast, a disc jockey show, a newscast. She listened to everything I ever did. And that's how I got started in this thing. I do want to talk a bit about the beginnings at ABI. I'm so glad George Hale is here. George is my mentor. I would not be here if it were not for George. When this kid walked into the WABI studio, having never been in one before, and John McRae, who was the morning man here at ABI years ago, George Hale, Barry Darling, looked at me and said, who the hell hired this guy? He doesn't know anything about this business. George stood with me. In fact, that whole group did. They stood with me. I wasn't there more than 6 months, and George had me broadcasting high school basketball with my dear friend Bob Woodbury. We did Milo and Brownville Junction from the front row of the old school. That was my first basketball game that I ever did play-by-play on, and that was the beginning of the career. And I stayed with that all the way through. But for those people at ABI, they made the whole thing possible. And when I graduated, I stayed in it at Maine, and when I was going to go to law school, former Governor Hildreth owned 3 stations. One was in Portland. And George Gagne called me in, and he said, "Do you need work while you go into law school?" And I said, "That's a pretty good bet I will." He said, "All right, you're doing the afternoon show on the Portland radio station we own." Right out of the blue. That's how loyal all of them were to me. And if I ever needed to come back to ABI, which I did on a number of occasions, the door was always open, and I came back and worked. So thank you to all of them, some who aren't here anymore. But George is. George will forever be doing radio. I don't think he's ever going to retire. And my connection with University of Maine sports, I did football games, I did basketball games. Stu Haskell sat down with Jack Semler and myself and Westy one day in the Commons when Maine hockey was starting and said, "How are we going to make this work?" Jack Semler wanted to form a Friends of Maine Hockey. Nobody knew what it was, including me. Jack did. Stu and Westy said, "That's what we're doing. We're going to make this thing work." And I had the pleasure and honor of heading up Friends of Maine Hockey for a number of years. And George again says, "We don't have anybody to do hockey, so why don't you do it?" And I said, "I've never done hockey." And as George Hale would always say, "It doesn't matter." And so that's how that started. So I started doing Maine hockey with Jack. Then Sean came. We had that tremendous first group of rejects from Massachusetts who had a chip on their shoulder with something to prove. And I've always said from day one, it was the Con and the Tortorellas and that group that set the passion for what Maine hockey would be and still is. That group just, I don't know what there was about the players in the community, but they loved each other. They fell in love with each other immediately. And that building became the most difficult place to play college hockey. And those guys set a standard of caring, of working, of playing, that I really believe set a standard for the program that still exists today. They were those kinds of kids. So I was delighted to do that, to be involved with the program, and obviously then it just moves on. I have, I guess, probably special recognition looking at the Hall of Fame, not only the inductees tonight but others. I think I'm probably the only one who never scored a basket, never kicked a field goal, I never had an RBI, never scored a goal, never blocked a shot. There's nothing that qualifies me to be in the Hall of Fame when it comes to the numbers. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So I accept that. Accept that, and just am very thankful that the opportunity to be here with you happened. It's a big deal. It's home, and it's family. Thanks.
Our next inductee tonight came to the University of Maine out of Smithers, British Columbia, when assistant coach Roland Ranson was recruiting a pole vaulter and happened to see Vicki Tolton and decided she would be a great fit for the University of Maine. Well, how right he was. After 5 years in Orono, 6 school records, 4 individual, 2 relays. All of those records remain standing. when she was selected for the Sports Hall of Fame. In addition to the 4x400 relay indoors and out, the 400 sprint indoors and out, she's also tops in the 400-meter hurdles outdoors and the 500-meter run inside. Perhaps the peak of her career came at the 2010 America East Outdoor Track and Field Championship, where she was named the outstanding female athlete. And even when bothered by injuries that prevented her from practicing, she was still an incredible competitor in meets, as proven by her great record of success at the University of Maine. These days, she's back in her native British Columbia, is a nurse, and is proud to be a part of this Hall of Fame from the class of '09. Please welcome Vicki Tolton.
So I spent quite a long time trying to find the words to describe how extremely honored I am to be receiving this award tonight. There's so many people I want to thank that I think that if I started my 20-page list, they'd probably kick me off the stage because I was told I had a 5-minute limit. But that being said, it just goes to show that there are so many people to thank when it comes to building an athlete, and especially track, as individualized as it is. Once you get on the competition field, you need a community and an army to build an athlete, and there are so many people behind the stage that I would love to thank and just don't have the time to, but I'm going to try. So that being said, Mark Leck, the head coach at the University of Maine during my 5 years here, I could have gone anywhere without him. He's amazing. He can't be here tonight. He's off coaching, so thank you, Mark. Roland Ranson, who recruited me all those years back. A really important person in my life, Greg Peters, was my high school coach back in high school, and he was the person who got it all started. Without him, I would never have been able to become a Division I athlete. Everyone in the academic department, a big thank you to my parents, my mother especially. She's been my biggest supporter. She's flown across the continent on numerous occasions, coming from British Columbia, to support me and my races. And if anyone knows, a 400-meter race is less than a minute. So it's a far ways to travel to support me. And again, she's here with me tonight across the continent. So thank you, Mom. A really big thank you goes to probably one of the most influential coaches in my life, and that's David Casano, and he's here with me tonight as well. Dave Casano came into play my sophomore year of university, and he made the biggest impact on my track career to date. He showed me what hard work and dedication was, and he showed me how to be the true athlete that I was. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And I'm extremely proud to say that he's still out influencing and motivating other athletes today, so thank you, Dave. I do want to thank the M Club for putting on this great event and for supporting my journey here. It's amazing. I'm so fortunate to be here, and I'm super proud to be a Black Bear. So I ran in my first race when I was in grade 4, and I've been running ever since. Running came naturally to me, and I've loved it. It flourished in high school, and then I got to spend 5 years here running. And thanks to an amazing coach, I became a very successful athlete, breaking records. And I was fortunate enough to move on to run for our national team in Canada. And I had dreams and aspirations of running in the Olympics. And unfortunately, every athlete knows that they sustain injuries, and this one took my running career, which was really hard, if any athlete knows what that feels like. So it left kind of a void in my life, which was hard to get over. And since then, I've had kids. I love my kids to death. I have a little 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old who's upstairs sleeping. But since then, not having track has left this kind of, I wouldn't say negative, but hard to talk about track, because I just see it as kind of, the aspirations that I didn't achieve. Until about a couple months ago, when I got the phone call from Coach Cosgrove, wherever he is here today, telling me that I was being inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame. And it gave me months to reflect on this amazing experience that I had, and these opportunities that came from this experience here at the University of Maine, and the records that I broke, and the family that I had with my coach and all of my colleagues here, and what an amazing opportunity it has been. And it brought back all this positive outlook on track and how important and how much it's meant to me. So this award tonight and being inducted tonight means so much more to me than I could probably really put into words. So thank you, everybody, and I really want to congratulate the rest of the inductees tonight. I know firsthand how much work goes into becoming as successful as you all are. So congratulations.
Our next inductee, Ashley Waters, came to the University of Maine from Amesbury High School in Massachusetts, where she was an outstanding athlete, the Boston Globe's Will McDonough Athlete of the Year. Her number was retired in field hockey and basketball, where she was a 1,000-point scorer, as well as in softball. At the University of Maine, as a freshman, she was named to the America East All-Rookie Team. Over the years, she was twice named to the America East First Team squad, was Player of the Year in 2008 in the conference, and was on the Northeast All-Region team as a senior in 2009. Beyond her skills on the field, she was a tremendous student as well, a 4-time academic All-American, the America East 2008 Scholar Athlete of the Year Award, and a winner of the prestigious Dean Smith Award in 2009. She went on to play for the legendary Stratford Brakettes for 6 seasons, and then went into coaching, where she begins her 3rd year as the head coach of the Boston University Terriers from the class of '09, Ashley Waters.
Thank you to the M Club, to the athletic department administrators for this incredible honor. To the other inductees, congratulations. Being inducted is special, but standing amongst you has made this incredible. I have so many people to thank. You do not have the opportunity to stand in this position without a support system, without selfless people who care and love you. Mom, I will never be able to fully articulate the appreciation I have for you. You recognized my love for sports at a very young age and gave me the tools and resources I needed to be successful. You knew what I was capable of before I even knew it. When I was rocking a mushroom cut and spent most of my days covered in dirt, you saw a little kid who loved winning and loved success. For those who don't know, my mother was my youth coach and my high school coach. She had a brilliant mentality of pretending nothing I did was good enough. Something could always be better. This pissed me off. However, this is what made me good. It made me push harder. I guess it's true what they say, that moms really do know best. Thank you for fueling my drive. I'm here today because of you. Dad, thank you for loving me, even on my worst day, for being the hug that solved a world of problems in one embrace, for being the post-game quote I always needed to hear. Sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. You would think that wouldn't help an 0 for 3 day. However, for some reason it helped me. You always knew when I needed a kick in the butt, a pat in the back, or just a friend. I hope you know how grateful I am for your support as a player, but now as a coach. The best feeling in the world is seeing your face in the stands. Thank you for taking the journey with me, and I hope it never has to end. To my brother Corey, you gave me the desire to compete. I wanted trophies because you had trophies. I wanted championships because I saw that made bigger trophies. Whatever you did, I wanted to do better. I love bringing home awards to walk by your bedroom. And I don't know when I surpassed you as being the most talented athlete in the family, but I do believe that was a good day for me. In all seriousness, you have given me the greatest friendship and support. You have stood by my side for every high and low in my career, and I consider myself lucky to have a brother who's invested as you. To the Dilkases, who are now at the casino, I thank them for being here. Lauren, you're one of the greatest people I know. I fell in love with this university because of you. We never got to play together, but I'm grateful we get to coach together. And I proudly rock number 7 my freshman year because of you. And they didn't have number 3 yet, which what? Like, who doesn't have number 3? Alex and Brittany, 2 of my players are here, my captains. It is an honor to coach you. You have made my heart so full by coming up here tonight. Becca, thank you for being you. You're the greatest friend, assistant coach, and person I know. I'm lucky to have you. I love competing, I love winning, and I love this sport. It has changed my life. I will give the best of myself every day as a coach in hopes that a small town kid with a hunger to compete gets a moment like this. Maine will always hold a very special place in my heart. I am grateful to all of you. Thank you.
Our final inductee tonight is not an individual, but a team, the first team to be inducted into this Hall of Fame. And to introduce them, someone eminently more qualified to do so than me. He was a part of that team, and he is, of course, the head coach of the University of Maine Black Bear hockey team, Red Gendron.
Thank you, Rich. First of all, thank you to the M Club and to the countless people who really made this thing happen, the Black Bear Inn. I mean, we got lots of folks in here tonight, and it's pretty special representing a lot of different sports in our Black Bear family. So you guys, people like Sherry Damon, Sue Pate, countless other, I mean, it's amazing. So thank you for this. It's terrific. I'm only going to speak for a minute because I'm going to turn the mic over to Jim Montgomery, who was a captain of our team, and I'm sure his words will be infinitely more profound than any that I can offer. But obviously, just having been a small part of that team, its impact was felt not only throughout our university, winning a national championship, a small northeastern, northern New England school here, but it brought a sense of pride to the entire state of Maine. The prelude to that, there's a bunch of guys sitting here tonight like Bruce Major, who was a coach on the team, but Mario Thayer, Bobby Corkum, Guy Perron, these are guys who came here tonight, but what they did in the 80s, as Grant aptly pointed out, the things were well in place when he arrived. Those people need to be recognized here too. Obviously, Grant's impact was enormous. He talked about young coaches learning the craft. Well, I was kind of a young coach at the time when I was involved with these guys, and I learned a myriad of lessons from Sean and from Grant. And Grant had a huge impact. And I think somebody talking about here about coaches making a difference in people's lives. Well, Grant Standbrook has lived his entire life in the service of other people. And, we don't win without him. Two last individuals that I want to mention before I turn the mic over to Jimmy. There's 2 people from that team that aren't with us here tonight. First, Lee Saunders, as many of you probably know, he passed away while playing hockey in Europe in an accident unrelated to the game. But he scored a truly memorable goal in the semifinals of the Frozen Four in Milwaukee. He scored the overtime goal to propel us to the championship game against Lake State, but he scored that goal against the University of Michigan. So I'd like to remember him tonight. And tonight we have Lynn Walsh, Travis Walsh, Tyler Walsh, and Sean Walsh here representing the Walsh family and Sean's legacy. And of course, none of this would have been possible without without Walshy. In honor of those guys, normally you'd have a moment of silence, but knowing both of them, let's stand up and give them a round of applause. One of the greatest captains, I kind of been doing this a long time, not quite as long as you, Grant, but a long time. And I've been around some great captains. And Grant already told us about all the great players we had. So that's magnificent. You don't need to hear any more about that. But Jim Montgomery's truly a great captain, was truly a great captain here. And so I think it's only fitting that he tells you all about these great young men who were 42. 1, 2. Jimmy.
Thank you, Red, and thanks to the committee and the M Club for bestowing upon us being the first team of all the great teams that have been here at the University of Maine in all the sports. It's a tremendous honor. One quick thing, I've noticed everyone talking about the 5 minutes you have to talk. Well, when we used to do practice, we used to do split groups, and we'd get into special teams, and it would be Red, you take the forwards down here, and then Grant, you take the forwards down there, and you got 5 minutes, Grant. This is Sean Walsh saying this. You got 5 minutes. Now make sure 5 minutes isn't just talking, and you saw all he did was talk. I think you noticed that there. And I don't need to talk about the 93 team individuals because Grant did it for 25 minutes. But with that, I do want to talk about what made that team so special. It wasn't individuals. Yes, the stats are amazing, but the individual, the talents we had were incredible. But I wanted to talk more about, as I was thinking about it, what made that team great. And Grant, I know you coached some good teams at Wisconsin, but they lost 5 more games than we did. So I will say that I think we're the greatest team ever. So with that, to me, there was 3 things that separated that team that made them elite. One was our intensity and our work ethic. And I've, during years and many years being in hockey, you meet people that played against our team, and they love to talk about what they thought was special about the team. There was 2 in particular that reflected upon this intensity and gives you guys examples. One was actually an SID at Providence at the time that I had the fortune of working with at Notre Dame. And he said, he goes, you know, we just knew that the first 10 minutes, all we had to do was hang on. If we could be 0-0 or 1-1 at the end of 10 minutes, we had a chance to stay in the game with you. And that just illustrated the intensity and the pace we came out with, intimidated and terrorized a lot of teams. 2 was the way we practiced. We were incredibly intense, and we went after each other in practice. And my assistant coach currently played at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. They came into Maine, and they're watching us practice, and he said, we went, oh shit, we have no chance against these guys because of the pace we practiced with. 2 would be elite intelligence, and this team had it at all levels. It first starts with the head of the snake, Sean Walsh, the greatest, to me, college hockey head coach that ever lived, with what he did here at Maine in such a short time and for so many years of success. And he still, I coach against coaches that still don't do the things that he did and our staff did at that time, as far as details, preparation, use of video, motivation, and his ability to communicate, which is above and beyond I've seen anywhere at any level. And from then, we went on to Red, and Red came to our program during my sophomore year, and he elevated us as far as the technology of video and how well we knew what the other team was doing. And then 3 was the guy that talked for about 45 minutes just before here. No one knew he could talk that much, huh? But Grant was the epitome of selflessness. Just his ability to one-on-one teach no matter what position and to make you better. All the players immediately had so much trust, and that's throughout his whole career. I've heard it from so many generations, and it's because he cared and he wanted to have an impact on everybody's life, which permeated through our team. Our team, that second quality is our selflessness. And examples of that, I've already talked about Grant, but we have the 2 greatest goaltenders in the country that year, in Gar Snow and Mike Dunham. And they split. It was Dunny Friday night, it was Snowy Saturday night, and it was amazing the support they gave each other, how selfless and how much they cheered each other on. We didn't think it was genuine from Snow, but from Dunham it was. But it was great leadership for our group. The 7 seniors that year, and an 8th senior really was Justin Tomlin, who had redshirted a year. So the struggles that from not finishing off championships, those 7 seniors bonded together and made sure that everybody was held accountable, players holding players accountable, and making sure that everyone thought team first. And Grant I didn't know, Grant, that Kent won us that championship, but we all found out tonight. But he was one of those seniors. And coupled with that elite intelligence was the passing that went on. I don't know how many people have talked about how we were able to one-touch pucks and how quickly we transitioned. And we had the greatest college hockey player ever. Grant, you're going to agree with that one, right? He's not. Sorry, Paul, he doesn't think so. But I do. All right? And his selflessness and his intelligence made everybody better. We had talent and skill, but the way we passed the puck and the way we used each other, people were happier setting someone up for an empty net than they were scoring themselves. And that was an incredible trait of our team, was how selfless we were. The decor, we had such a great decor. They were so hard to play against every day for us forwards in practice. They were in your face, and they were what I thought was the key to our team and our team identity was there's no easy nights against Maine hockey. And that was a credit to our decor. And then the other, the tic-tac-toe passing, what our decor did and what our goalies did, it really made us selfless. And then the last thing I remember was after we'd won the NCAA championship, there's a couple of things that made it special was, and Red talked about how the whole state was behind us. And to us, we had the best fans. We knew we were not doing it just for ourselves. It was for our incredible fans, what we, at the time, no doubt about it, the best college hockey fans in the country. And and the examples of that was 10,000 people at the Boston Garden when we won the Hockey East Championship, 10,000 people when we routed Minnesota 6-2 in Worcester, and then when we arrived back with the trophy, the outpouring of affection at Bangor Airport, over overpasses, every overpass on the way, back to campus, and then people filling out of Alfond Arena for when we arrived, it really showed that we did it for all of us. And we knew that going in, but that just confirmed to us how special it was at that time to be in the state of Maine. And in closing, I just want to thank everybody again on behalf of the 1993 team for this incredible team honor. And as Garth Snow said in Alfond, when we won the championship, we'll meet you at Jetty's tonight, all right? Thank you.
Could we have all the members of that 93 championship team please stand up so we can recognize you as a group? All right, and with some closing remarks to wrap up this wonderful night from the M Club, please give a warm round of applause for the guy who hired me here tonight, Guy Whitten. Excellent. And before Guy starts, best looking tux you'll ever find. How about this?
Yeah, I'm going dancing after it's over. I'd like to I'm going to wrap this up quickly. I know it's been a long evening, but I just want to lend my own personal congrats to the inductees to the 2017 University of Maine Sports Hall of Fame. At this time, I think it's very fitting to recognize the Board of Directors of the M Club. So would you people that are around the room here, would you please stand so everybody can see who you are? And we've got people all over here. This is a very dedicated group who, believe me, bleeds blue. The M Club is happy to organize this event on behalf of the athletic department, and we thank especially the Sports Hall of Fame Committee, which is a subgroup of the Board of Directors, for organizing this event, especially Sherry Damon and Sue Pate. They did an awesome job. I'd also like to thank Tracy and her crew here at the Black Bear Inn, Angela, our food and beverage lady, Carrie, our chef, Leslie, our head server. Thanks, ladies, for putting on a great show. It was really nice. And special thanks to you, Rich, for entertaining us, and for Father Bill, who had to leave. I think he's hearing Red Gendron's confession out in the hall. And thanks for all of those of you that took ads in our program. If you have a chance to support them, please do so. The M Club has a long and distinguished 85-year history here at the University of Maine, supporting our athletes past, present, and future. And we hope the support of the M Club, when you get a letter asking for donations, just please be assured that all funds that we receive go to supporting and promoting UMaine athletics. So tonight, everyone in this room is a Black Bear, so I'd invite you all to stand on your feet, and we're going to end this program with a Stein song. What do you say? Come on your feet. Let's go here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, fill the steins to dear old Maine, shout till the rafters ring. Stand and drink a toast once again. Every loyal Maine man sing, and drink to all the happy hours. Drink to the careless days. Drink to Maine, our alma mater, the college of our hearts so raised. Peace to the sky, to spring in its glorious happiness, to the youth, to fire, till the light that is moving and calling us to the gods. their destinies to so we'll love us someday, oh, fill the stands of dear old Maine, shout till the rafters ring, stand and drink a toast once again, let every loyal Maine man sing, and drink to all the happy hours, drink to the careless days, drink a minor, college of our hearts always. Good night, thanks for coming.